You have a ghost?
Sarah.
Oh.
She's not a ghost.
I always knew it. You're not of this place. I was going to call her Devil Woman, then I was like, nah, I probably should.
Only I call her.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm Perry. I'm your host. All that stuff. Hey, welcome. I'm tired. I'm sorry.
Hey.
I got really frazzled by the technical difficulties I had there for a second. But anyway, we're doing something different. We've got two people who've never been on the show together before. One of them has been on multiple times, multiple times. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm mini multiple-time contributor, Chad, from His Bourbon Night.
Welcome, Chad, from It's Bourbon Night.
Thank you.
I'm Perry from This Is My Bourbon.
Hi.
And the other...
fewer times Sean or Swan. Usually I go by Swan.
You're Swan. You're Swan to us, at least. So this is episode 40, which is
So we're going to drink 40s.
crazy.
Switch it up a little bit.
Edward 40 hands
Yes.
of bourbon.
Yes.
So I wanted to do something a little bit different, and we're actually going to be talking about MGP bourbons today, and I'm sure it'll get into NDP as well from time to time. But first, pulling back the curtain a little bit, I recorded episode 41 with my dad the other day and introduced a new segment, which I'm going, I guess, to technically really introduce for the first time. On episode 40, but I'm calling it Flying Blind.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is revisit something that we may not have had in a while or didn't like in the past, and we're just trying to bring it back and see if we have different thoughts about it now. Okay. So today's is a little old Bullet Frontier bourbon whiskey,
All right.
which is, correct me if I'm wrong, also an MGP.
Currently,
bourbon.
yes.
So, I figured that would be a good way to kick off the conversation. Which glasses should we use?
Oh, whatever you want.
There's so many glasses.
Yeah.
Do we want to start with...
There's more Tribecas than anything. So.
Yeah, let's do the Tribecas then, if that's okay by you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm handing you ones when you have
It's literally right by me.
Yeah.
Thanks for Traeger.
So I'm just... We'll pour it around until we finish off the little airplane bottle, I guess, but... Yeah, I've not had this in a while. I was talking recently with somebody about how it has been kind of replaced by Turkey 101 as my higher rye bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
But
I had the cast strength not too long ago, but I've not had this one in a good while.
cast strength, I think, is
it's great.
from memory far superior to this.
Yeah, I used to think I was really nuts about the cast strength until it was in a blind flight and it came in dead last. I think I've always thought it was kind of unique. I don't think it stands up well to competition.
Sure.
Because of its uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
I think I liked it so much because I had the regular Bullet, and there's not as many bourbons that, you have the original and then you have the cast strength, and it just feels like the original cranked up to 11.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. That one did for me. So that's why I kind of really went for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the nose is kind of bland, personally. But Chad's already moved on to the to the palate, which is okay.
Sorry, I was thirsty.
No, it's all good. I haven't had anything yet either.
We can still talk about the nose.
No, I think the nose is just a little bit
it's
non-existent. That's fine.
Yeah, there's not much going on.
It's brown sugar.
Then that's
kind of about
pretty
it.
much it. Yep.
Doesn't really have the typical vanilla or caramel.
Do not think so either. But I would like to taste it, though.
Kind of the same story in the flavor department. Kind of brown sugary.
Why am I getting a really chemical note that I've never noticed before?
I don't know.
Do I have a bad glass?
No.
You hand washed them yourself?
I hand washed those myself, personally. Inspected by number 9. So I stand behind my work as a dishwasher.
I am just getting this really pronounced chemical
Do you want to?
flavor on it. I guess so. Thanks, Chad.
I just had Wild Turkey 101 last night, and after listening to your theory about the lower proof being hotter, I gotta say I really can't tell a difference in heat between the two. The 101 and this, they're about the same heat, and this is 90 and the other one's 101. It's kind of weird to me.
So Perry just tried some out of my glass to see if it was any type of glass taint.
No, I think it just tastes.
You're just picking up that note?
It just tastes bad. Which stinks because I've had really good bottles of Bullet before, and the folks over at Bullet too have always been really kind to us and everything. I think I might have just gotten a bad mini bottle, or maybe I'm just having an off day. I don't know. That was my first sip of anything today.
It's glass. It was a little glass mini bottle.
I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. Oh well. Well, that was Flying Blind, where we try something, we bring something back from the dead, I guess.
Cool.
Guys, what you been drinking recently?
I've been delving way too far into the Wild Turkey revival. I've had that.
Been loving that, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Feels.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine right now.
Yeah. We're going to be doing an episode sometime soon just on turkey products. And you gave me a nice little sample of that too, so I'm going to throw that.
Yeah, I gave you that sample, and Rigger Bird 101 gave you quite a few. So
he did.
You've got a lineup.
Good old Dave. I'm super happy with what he sent over, and I can't wait to try that stuff out. Chad, what about you, man?
Well, we just had Willet Day yesterday, so drank a lot of Willet. Finished off a bottle of Old Weller Antique 107.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Old label or
Old label.
Yeah.
So it was Old Weller. Not just Weller.
Not just Weller Antique.
Yeah. And also been loving a 2010, as far as I can tell, bottle of Wild Turkey 101. A handle. That just
the
tastes,
the one that we opened on the
the
live stream I was on.
Magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got you the newer label version of Turkey 101, but it was in between the current and that one.
It's fine.
And I still feel a little bit bad about it, but
it's all right.
I know.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh, of course. Well, anyway, continue on with the theme of turkey. I actually went on a little tour trip on Saturday, and Turkey was one of the stops, and I finally got to meet the man, the myth, the living legend himself, good old Jimmy Russell, and had him sign a bottle of Turkey 101 for me. This isn't really what I've been drinking. This is just a cool story that I wanted to share.
Yeah.
And who knows how much longer that guy's going to be around, but I was super happy to have finally stumbled across him.
That's cool, dude.
And everything.
Yep.
One of the funniest things, though, was that, not funny, haha. Well, it was a little funny, haha, but he, of course, is older, so he can't walk around as well as he used to be able to. So he now has a scooter.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Okay, so it's decked out to kind of look more like a motorcycle, like a motorbike, and it's got Jimmy Russell, Master Distiller, Wild Turkey written on the side of it. And I tell you what, that thing can fly. Like, he was going a good 10 or 12 miles an hour and leaving his wife in the dust. It was amazing. Oh, I was trying so hard not to laugh.
It's a Wild Turkey NASCAR. That's what it is, man. Just flying through there.
Don't drink and drive, kids. Anyway, other than that, I mean, I don't really have any super great what I've been drinking recently stories, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah. I feel like what we've been drinking is kind of turned into a catch-all of, like, tell us cool stories you've done about bourbon recently. But anyway, that's about it. Okay, so as I said, our topic for the day is MGP bourbons. And if you don't know what MGP means, I'm going to tell you as soon as I pull up the Wikipedia page. MGP of Indiana is the Midwest Grain Products of Indiana, and they are a distillery that actually produces a crapload of whiskeys that you probably don't know unless you actually are involved in the world like we are. A whole bunch of ryes, of course, just a few Bullet Rye, as we were mentioning before. George Dickel's rye, which I think is crazy because they've been around for forever. The Angel's Envy rye too. I think Angel's Envy all over is an MGP company. But as far as bourbon, we have a few that we're actually going to be drinking as well. By the way, I didn't bring this to talk about MGP. I just wanted you to try it. It was another Liquor Barn.
It's a
Buffalo Trace pick.
Buffalo Trace, yeah. Liquor Barn pick.
Anyway,
Okay.
we'll talk about that another time.
Cool.
But anyway, let's pour something else before we get into talking about it.
Yes.
And I also had an off-topic question for you guys too. I was thinking about this earlier today. I know this is kind of all over the place. Sorry. So recently I've been noticing that Knob Creek picks are turning out to be quite a bit older than 9 years, which is what the normal single barrel is, right? Do you think it is time for them to, or do you think that they will switch over to an older age statement on their bottles? Because clearly they have the stock available.
I really don't think they would. I mean, it kind of undermines Booker's at that point because they're putting out some that are 7 years old, and then they've got Knob Creek picks coming from a warehouse down or two at 120 proof, same as Booker's, close to anyway, and almost double the age.
Right.
So, I mean, if they did that, I feel like they'd have to either mess with Knob Creek or Booker's pricing, and, they just went through that, and it wasn't too fun for them, so...
We loved that.
I can't imagine they would touch it. Now, I will say that there's been a lot of Knob Creek picks that I almost prefer over some of the Bookers that they've been putting out.
Bold statement.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's different. Like, the one I got from our store was great. I would have taken that over the 2017-2 that I picked up. But some of them are, some of the new Bookers are great. They just announced that new one that you're excited to get your hands on.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was it? The Kentucky Hug or the Kentucky Chew? I can't remember.
Kentucky
Chew.
Yeah.
I said Kentucky Hug is next.
I'm so excited.
I don't think so either. I think, we don't... It's hard to know the age of the barrels that get blended in to the small batch. They might require some 9 or 10-year-old barrels to be blended in to maintain that flavor profile that that they had with the 9-year age statement for the 100 proof, and have since removed the 9-year age statement. But like when I was talking to Eddie the other day on a pick, I was talking about why my 2010 turkey tasted different, aka better than the ones on the shelf now, and he was like, "It shouldn't. It should taste exactly the same." He said, I was like, well, I didn't know if, back in 2010 it wasn't as popular, so maybe you're blending in some older barrels that you're not now. And he said, I'm still blending in 9.5-year-old barrels of Wild Turkey 101. He said, I would have been doing the same thing back then.
Sure.
So, I think they have those barrels that are there to be selected as single barrels. But if they weren't there to be selected as single barrels, they'd just be blended in to make the small batch a small batch.
Sure. I don't necessarily think that it's going to happen in the near future, but I don't think it's necessarily out of the realm of possibility for them, but I also think that it makes sense for them to reserve those barrels for picks. Yeah. It'll be crazy if we get to the point one day where we're getting 90-year-old. We're getting to 20-year-old Knob Creek picks. I mean... I
don't think that would ever happen.
No, that's what I'm saying, is it would be crazy if that ever
crazy.
happened.
Yes,
but
yes. Crazy indeed.
Anyway, that was just something I was thinking of that I thought I'd bring up.
Yeah.
So let's pour something, please.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
You want to will it? We got some pure Kentucky over here.
Sure, why not? I don't think I've actually had Pure Kentucky,
Okay.
so we may as well try that.
Yeah, I've not had that one either.
And again, you guys just had this on your live stream yesterday, which once this comes out will have been the Sunday of this week.
Pure Kentucky XO, Willet product. Yeah, I know a bit about it just because we did our Willet Day.
Yep.
Recently on our live thing, but this is part of the what do they call it? The boutique bourbon
Right.
series, which is 4. Noah's Mill kind of being the top one.
Mm-hmm.
This one's kind of, I think, in like the middle.
In terms of price and
You got
and or quality.
Rounds Creek.
Sure.
And Kentucky Vintage being in there.
That's an odd nose. Am I having an off day? I can't tell.
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out as we're trying this. Bacon spices?
It's a bit nutty.
Yeah. Just everybody drink. Just a hair.
I mean, not
though.
super nutty.
I mean,
no, not super nutty. Not like Noah's Mill.
It's got more going on than the Bullet, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it
You definitely have those baking spices in there.
like a banana nut cake?
I could maybe pull some banana out of there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very light banana, but I think it's still. I think it's still there. Some marshmallows.
Like a buttercream frosting.
Yeah.
A little bit.
There we go. This is Swan. You made
I'm
a
just
face.
keep smelling it, man, because I just took that whole month off, and I came back and I'm like, smells like bourbon.
Yeah,
That's pretty much all I got. So it's taken me a while to kind of get back
Build the
into
muscles
it.
back?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Your muscles have entropy.
Intrepid. Yeah.
I can never say that
Right? I don't know. This has been
yeah.
this is my Bourbon Podcast fact checkers.
Mm-hmm.
Check our facts.
Definitely nutty on the taste. Yeah.
Especially up front,
And that
I would say.
it's a certain type of spice. It's not like an allspice where you got everything going on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know exactly right now what it is.
Yeah.
Kind of goes a little chocolate as it starts going into its finish, like a milk chocolate.
But a very light milk chocolate,
Mm-hmm.
I would say.
Yeah, I don't know what spice.
It does have some heat, but it's more of that spicy than anything else, which is good. It reminds me of some higher proof stuff. What is this one?
107.
107.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't seem like
if
it.
I told you it was 95, you would have been like, oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's where I was leaning towards.
Mhm.
Under 100.
Yeah.
It's fine. I think it's okay.
Yeah, small batch boutique bourbon. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit, by the way, about MGP because that's supposed to be the topic. We'll see if that
See how far we get.
how that pulls through. So, if you want to learn more about MGP, you can head to mgpingredients.com, and I actually am going to include a.
Perry needs a teleprompter.
I am going to include a link. I'm Ron Burgundy. I'm going to include a link to their website as well as some other articles and stuff that I was mulling over as I was researching for this episode too.
Now, I haven't really looked too much into MGP, but correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, they're just a gun for hire, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make and sell distillate to other companies to then rebottle.
They do.
Or, I guess some age it in their own places. I guess they buy some already aged, but then they put it in their bottle, slap their label on it, and sell it.
And one of the things that I found the most interesting too is all of their recipes that they have for their bourbon and their ryes. And they also make gin and grain neutral spirits as well. But and actually not just their ryes, their Scotch whiskeys too. They have a bourbon that's 99% corn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
It's a weird
right.
mash bill. Yeah.
Why not go that full?
Well, then it's not bourbon.
Then it's not bourbon, yeah.
Then it's just corn whiskey. But I'm going to sound stupid here, but I feel like a lot of what we understand as MGP is sometimes just sourced.
Right. A lot of people
Right.
think, oh, they don't make it. It's got to be MGP because MGP, I think, is, well, that's what they do exclusively, right? So they're huge, and I think there's a couple of reasons why people kind of look down on sourced / or MGP.
Sure.
Is one, it's Indiana, so the Kentucky bourbon
So
nuts
it's not
are
Kentucky.
like, it's not Kentucky.
Yeah.
But sourced, even if it is sourced from one of the bigger distilleries, it's like, well, they can't even make their own stuff. Why would I pay X? Because, obviously, if they're buying it, then they have to mark it up to make their profit. So they're like, why would I pay more for something that they didn't even make? But, there's maturation. If they're just buying a brand new barrel of new make and then they're aging it, so much in maturation. And the fact that they would be aging it in a different location than the distillery who made it can mean a world of difference. Or they might be blending it with other ones.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people too that want like a unique mash bill, because if you've got, say, a list of 8 mash bills, you can't do the Four Roses thing where you've got 2 different mash bills and 5 different yeast strains and just go crazy with it and age them different, blend them different.
Right.
You just don't get those options. Now I know when you get big enough, you can say, hey, MGP, I want this mash bill and I'll buy X amount of barrels. But I mean, a lot of the ones that we consider sourced are too small to go up to MGP and say I want my own barrels at this at this proof going in and this mash bill. They're just getting what they offer.
They got to take something off of this menu. Something from column A, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because that's all I'm gonna.
You have one option,
You're
maybe
not getting a
if
secret
you're
menu
lucky.
on that one.
Yeah.
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 Are you sure you can't make the beef quesarito with steak? Sir, I'm sorry, we just...
So like this
Anyway.
this bullet we're drinking, for example.
Yeah.
The internet seems to think it's Four Roses. So sourced, not MGP in this case, but it is from not from Bullet. Now Bullet does, like so many, now have a distillery, and they're starting
And
to
they're
pump
working
out
their
their
way
own
up.
distillate. So in one day it will be their own stuff. But what you're drinking right now is not their own. It's made probably at Four Roses.
And I don't personally see any problem with that. I mean, it doesn't bother me necessarily that they're working their way towards their own product, but a lot of people look down on it.
Yeah, if
Like,
you didn't
they're
start
not
in the
being-
1800s,
they're not
though,
being
how are
honest.
you gonna?
Well, I mean that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
even the 1950s or 1960s, but there are still though a lot. Not a lot necessarily, but there are still some notable sourced or MGP bourbons out there that I really do like. Boone County 1833, for example. I mean, we made the very bold statement that we would buy it over Bullet. It's a sourced whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
Over a sourced whiskey. But yeah, no, I hear you. Like, Bullet is such an established brand, been around for.
I'm sorry,
forever.
I meant Blanton's, not Bullet.
Okay.
My apologies.
Definitely not sourced.
I was like, what? Oh, I said the wrong thing.
Gotcha.
Perry's killing it today. Anyway, yes, we said Boone County 1833 over Blanton's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that 12-year-old bottle, or something special about that 12-year-old bottle. And, Blanton's is probably more around 6 or 7 years. They don't age statement on there, but it's, comes from Warehouse H, the metal warehouse, special things happen there. But it's Blanton's,
Yeah.
Now, straight from
in
the
high regard.
barrel, I don't know about that. I'd probably pick straight from the barrel, because that stuff's amazing. But, yeah, that 12-year-old bottle of Boone County 1833.
Have you gone back to it recently?
Not recently. It's special. Have you had a Swan?
Yeah, I've had it once. We had a bottle of it open at the store. And we got
The
to try
10-year
it.
or the 12-year?
The 12-year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was really good. I don't know if I'd say I'd have it over Blanton's, but it may have just been that specific bottle that you guys had versus mine. But it is definitely comparable, especially for the price.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For sure. Well, originally, I guess we were going to talk about MGP, but I think it's more
Just sourced in general.
sourcing it at this point.
I mean, same thing with, this Pure Kentucky XO, Willet, which is sourced from where I'm not sure. And I think they kind of do from what I've read anyway, people seem to think they kind of do the Jefferson's method of they take some barrels from one distillery, they take barrels from another distillery, you know, they kind of make their own thing. In fact, some people even say some products can be a 4-grain without, you know, it even being advertised. But they've been distilling since 2012. So some of their lower products are now their own distillate, but what we just drank, the Pure Kentucky, is not. But in 10 years, you know, and that's always like, when you switch over, are you just going to be so confident that you've got the flavor profile down?
You better be.
You can just
better be confident.
Flip it over. I mean, I guess that's the job of the master distiller, right?
Sure.
But, or are people going to be like, yeah, it tastes a little bit different, but it's their stuff now. I mean, I don't know how. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, and I think it depends, too, on your brand loyalty. I mean, you know, if you have people that fall into category B like that, where they're like, well, it's a little bit different, but I still, you know, love X company so much, I'm going to continue to purchase from them or continue to support them. But I think that we, in terms of that, and we being more avid or serious bourbon drinkers, we're the outliers, or we kind of fall through those cracks a little bit.
I honestly don't care as long as it tastes good.
I don't either. I mean, I would prefer a quality product over familiarity.
Yeah, I think some of it too is like, you know, they could come out with a 3-year and say, you know what, we did it ourselves, versus a 10-year that they sourced.
Right.
I mean, not going to sound biased by saying this. You want the 10-year. I mean, usually the more age and the more time you have with it to kind of taste it and find out when it's ready, instead of just saying, well, this is mine, and putting your stamp on it. I'm going to pick the one that you tried a little bit more with, the 10-year.
Sure.
Yeah, and besides the people behind the scenes, you don't even know when it's their own stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Like, they don't feel the need to plaster that on the label, because your average Joe drinker isn't really going to care.
Sure. Sorry, I'm pouring. We were speaking of Jefferson's, so I figured I'd pour a little bit of Jefferson's as well. Now, this is a pick that I've had on the show before with Chad and Sarah, but I wanted to revisit it again. Or just revisit it, not necessarily.
Revisit it again. It's deja vu all over again.
It's the ATM machine.
It's the hot water heater. It heats hot water.
Why does your water...
Why are you heating your hot water? It's already hot. Come on.
Sorry if I poured you a little bit too much,
redundant.
Chad. I definitely poured you... I'm sorry. Here, split the difference if you need to. I'm a heavy pourer. I'm sorry. That's better.
You don't have to drive. You'll be fine.
Now you got the heavy pour.
Oh, whatever.
So remind us of what this is again.
So this is a Jefferson's pick from Liquor Barn. From last year, I believe. Yeah, looks like it.
Now the picks of people like Jefferson's have always confused me.
Same.
I guess I'll just have to try to go on one eventually. So they take...
and this is Jefferson's Reserve, not Jefferson's Reserve. Ocean.
Yeah, so it could be like 4 different recipes from 4 different producers of 4 different ages that is married together, usually in like a stainless steel vat, right?
Sure.
But this is a single barrel.
That's always been my assumption.
So I guess it's just like, say it comes from Jim Beam, or say it comes from Buffalo Trace,
and they put duct tape over the name on the barrel.
That's the barrel that you
I didn't even think about that.
How in the world can it taste anything like a normal Jefferson's Reserve? I guess it can't, but it seems to.
Well,
it smells like it.
I think it smells more Buffalo Trace-esque.
When do they blend it? Do they do it after it's aged, or do they try to... Okay.
After it's aged,
I believe so.
I think this is super floral.
I think so, too.
Like perfume.
Oh, this is much different from when we tried it the first... I'm remembering this incorrectly, then.
Like this... I think I've had enough Jeffersons to kind of know its
profile.
It's profile, and this smells like a Jefferson's. But if it truly is a single barrel, maybe they take a, like, I don't know. Just have to find out. They take a barrel, they fill it back up after it's been married.
Yeah.
Like, that wouldn't seem like that would
That seems like a lot of work for a pick.
Yeah.
I just don't see him doing it.
And then it would be double barreled.
Yeah, and then there's other companies doing it. Like I've got this one here, the barrel bourbon. They do some pretty crazy stuff with theirs too. If they're doing a single barrel, I can't imagine them blending all that and aging it kind of in their own special way that they do. And you have a single barrel. I feel like you just walk in there, grab a cask that just left Buffalo Trace 2 weeks ago, and
again with the duct tape over the name, so you can't see the where it's from.
Yeah.
This has not done well since it's been opened.
I mean, it's definitely different.
It's
super floral.
It's overly
really
perfumey.
Mellow too.
Yeah.
There's some very light heat on the back end.
90.4.
90.2.
90.2. And it was one or the other.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember.
Yeah.
90.
And then there's the one
proof.
that's like 86.4 or something.
Yeah.
That's just the Jefferson.
Just the Jefferson small batch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm really curious on how they do this.
It smells kind of sandy.
Sandy. Kind of. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of it. Sorry, I'm like taken aback by how much I don't like it compared to how I did when I first opened it.
I mean, it reminds me of kind of like bathroom potpourri or something, you know? It's
That's
like,
perfect. That's right on the nose.
I could definitely do that.
Or palate.
Yeah. Yeah. Not super digging it.
I'm not either. I'm not a big fan. Yeah, I'm okay with not finishing that one off.
Need a little palate cleanse.
Now, but we have to talk about, too, I think, the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the people like Wilderness Trail or Castle and Key or even, well, I guess now, too, New Riff with their Bottled and Bond. Some of them did source for a while, a.k.a. New Riff.
Yep.
But Wilderness Trail did not. They waited it out until their product was aged all the way.
Yeah.
Marianne Eves, is doing the same thing over at Castle and Key.
Well, they're selling gin and vodka while
They are,
ages.
but they're not sourcing
They're not sourcing, correct.
whiskey in the meantime.
Correct. They're also making money off of renting out their warehouse to other companies to put their barrels in to age. You know, in those historic warehouses.
In typical Taylor distillery fashion.
Yeah.
But you have to give those people some kind of props, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be like we put them on a pedestal above the ones that do source, because, I mean, there is still good sourced whiskey, but they're doing something different, and I think it's to be applauded that they're doing it their own way, too.
I think it's definitely more admirable than the people who wait 6 months and then go ahead and put their product out, because either they think it's ready, and who's to say if they're wrong or not? They're wrong. I don't know. But, nah. Or,
nah, you're fine.
Nah, you're fine.
Good.
I'm just joshing you. Or they put it out because they need revenue. They need to start a revenue stream.
Because they're taxed on those barrels.
They are taxed every year.
Yeah.
Every year it sits there. So to them, if you're putting it out for reason B, I say make gin or make vodka or whatever.
Sure.
And start that secondary revenue stream
Yeah.
while your product properly ages.
And I mean, if you have the space too, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing what Castle and Key is doing and renting out that space.
Of course
either.
not.
I mean, that's a completely logical.
No, that makes perfect sense. Make some money while you can.
Upcharge them a little bit,
Or sell moonshine, Sell your distillate as moonshine.
Sure. Jeff Creed's doing that.
Yeah, they're making a killing off of that.
They really are. It seems like people really like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they've got do they have a 2-year-old bourbon coming out soon, or
2.5?
It's a 2.5. They haven't really disclosed it. They just said it's going to have the straight on it.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So,
Next year, I think.
And their previous one was 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Yeah, and they had 3 or 4 different batches of that they put out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got one of their moonshines here. It was a lemonade, I think.
You want to do moonshine on the podcast? It's never been done before on this show.
Well, it's only like 80 proof or something.
Never mind.
It's not like Yeah, it won't start your car. It's flavored. It's flavored cut down moonshine.
It won't get Grandpa out of the bed in the morning to go.
No, but it's good. It's tasty.
Feed the cows.
Yeah.
What was that weird? There was a weird metaphor I used like 20 episodes ago.
Ooh,
The Swan texted me about it. He was like, "Were you okay?" Anyway, let's drink something else as we're winding up this conversation.
Sure.
I'd vote the Widow Jane personally.
Yeah.
Because
I don't
we've
know
not.
if I've ever had the Widow Jane before.
Well, here you
I
can
think
pour you
you-
some of it.
I think you might have. I think Swan gave us both samples
I think you might be right.
back in the day,
Yeah.
before this was all a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got an 8-year, they've got a 10-year, and they do a 12 that they do a lot of barrel picks with. This
Right.
one's the 10-year.
Now this isn't a cheap sourced bourbon.
This is
either.
it's about 80. 80
I've
for the
seen it
bottle.
go for like 95.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially at, well, I'm not going to name names. Sorry, I caught myself
At some places.
there. I think it's strange when places charge that much for a sourced product.
Well, I mean, I think
too.
the distillery kind of sets the MSRP, and then it's,
Sure.
up to the retailer if they want to try to get a little bit more out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also it doesn't help that they're in New York, and if you've ever been there and looked at some of their pricing, it's
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous.
New York prices are the worst.
So, I mean, they're
Yeah.
just used to that. That's what they think it should fetch there. And they're doing a whole line of I think there's 4 of them. 2 of them are rye. They've got an applewood one and a traditional rye and an oak. And they're in the antique collection bottles and stuff. And I've tried them, and I think that might be their own. I'm not 100% on that, but they're only aged
Sure.
2 years, so they're
Probably
pretty.
theirs then.
Yeah, and they're different. It's really the rye is really tropical, which is not something I would associate with a rye at all. It's really strange.
Well, there's a lot of fruit on the nose on this one.
Yeah.
I would say.
I get that.
Like green apple.
Yeah, a
Specifically.
lot of apple peel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe some citrus. But I think that's also the smell that I can confuse sometimes as musty. You can also think...
Apple peel?
Not so much this one. No, not apple peel in particular, but just...
Almost I've gotten that before from a dried apple.
Yeah.
Have you ever had the apple crisps? Sometimes I can get the kind of
Okay.
musty
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you've got a little bit of history on this bottle about something they had put on their website.
Yeah, well, they call it Widow Jane because they pull the water from this, I don't know what to call it. Not a quarry.
Babbling brook?
A water deposit where they say the water is even more enriched with limestone, has a limestone bed, even more limestone enriched than Kentucky's water. And that's why they call it Widow Jane. Well, someone did an expose on them,
news.
and they don't even pull from that brook or that whatever. But then Widow Jane was like, well, if you look at the back of the bottle, it actually even says Kentucky bourbon, bottled by Widow Jane Distillery, Brooklyn, New York.
Boo.
So this is Kentucky
Boo.
bourbon,
I think that's
not New York.
my one issue with sourced bourbon is when they're not upfront about it.
Yeah. You take Smooth Ambler, when they have Old Scout, that means it's sourced. But Big Level
Right.
was just Big
Yeah.
Level because that was their own. Mm-hmm. They're very upfront about it, which is admirable.
Well, and I think that's why it's so important to have people on our side of the things like Wade Woodard, Tater Talks guy, who is breaking down the stigma of a lot of labeling and misconceptions about bourbon. And I think he's actually gone after sourced places that source their bourbon.
I mean, it's 2018. The internet's been around forever. You can't really hide anymore. You might not be able to say, "Oh, this comes from this distillery," but you can say, "They're not making that."
Something's up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's people out there that can "Oh, I found your receipt where you purchased it from Kentucky." You can't hide this stuff. I mean, people are gonna know about it.
They're gonna find
and if
out
they're
one way or
upfront
another.
with it, I'm much more willing to say, it's sourced, but I want to try it, even at this price point, which is a little high.
Yeah.
But
I think it's awfully high.
yeah, it's up there. The 12 year is even more ridiculous when you find it.
Well, I think it kind of tastes like the nose. It kind of tastes like apple peels.
I think so too. It reminds me of a slightly. It's 90 proof, right?
It's 91.
It reminds me of, and this is. This makes more sense now that I asked that question. It reminds me a little bit of a watered down version of E.H. Taylor Small Batch.
A little bit. I get like a weird licorice note on the E.H. Taylor. And I don't get it in this. Yeah, but
You and Sarah with your licorice notes.
I don't know. It's a thing.
I guess I
A lot
just
of
haven't
people
had
get it
enough
from rye.
licorice to.
I mean, I don't mind
Pick it up.
licorice, I guess.
I really don't like it, and I think when
That's
it
just like
has
Sarah.
even a little bit of a note in it, I'm like, it's in there. I know
Black
it's in there.
licorice.
Yeah, and this is good though for me. It doesn't have that. It's not strong at all. The black licorice note
Sure.
from E.H. Taylor is not strong at all either. So, but this I get the green apple, and then once it's kind of settled a little bit, then I start getting heat.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely has more heat than I would think a 91 proof should have.
I don't see it as alcohol burn personally. I taste it, or I get it more as
To
like
me, it's
a
right on
like
the
a,
palate.
like a spice burn. And do you mean
Yeah,
like
then it
like
flares up.
Yeah,
And then it goes away.
like right in the middle of the palate?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, just got a really nice like butterscotch flavor on it too.
It's like
That wasn't
those
so bad.
spiced apples that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If I put it close to anything tonight, I would put it more close to the Jeffersons. It's kind of more
I'd
on
say
that
so, too.
unusual, off the grid, more potpourri, fruity, floral
Mm-hmm.
type of biz.
I don't think it's bad. I don't think
No.
it's worth $90.
No, definitely not.
But I'm glad to have had it.
Yeah, this is
Sure.
one of those you buy and you taste and you try to tell yourself it's good, even though it's definitely
Yeah, like
it's
I
not
gotta-
quite there.
I gotta justify this.
I liked it when I first had it, and I don't know if it's just I've evolved since then, or what. But it's not nearly as good as what I remember the first time around.
And I heard it from you and a bunch of other people that were pretty into bourbon at the time. They were all telling me it's like, this is the one to get. Like, if you find this, pick it up. I bought a bottle, and
I think I do remember saying that.
the other 5 bottles from that
Regrettably.
case are sitting on the shelf at the place that I bought it.
Of course they are.
Yeah, so no,
course they are.
I mean it's worth trying. It's definitely worth
Sure.
trying.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that even though it's sourced, their rye that they have still has kind of the profile, like the fruitiness, which I always thought would have been harder to source your stuff and then have a consistent
Right.
profile than have it all in the same site and aged in the same area.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So what's our verdict on sourced whiskey? Good for bourbon, bad for bourbon, okay for bourbon?
It's all about the taste for me. If it
Sure.
tastes good, I'm going to buy it. Now, some of the price points are a little ridiculous, but
Sure.
it's, like I said, it's worth trying. It's definitely worth trying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's positive in the fact of when a company like New Riff sources their product like OKI while their actual distillate is aging. I
Right.
think that is a positive because they're putting out. What did it start with? Like a 7 or 8 year OKI, and then each year it got older and older.
I think so, yeah.
That
they've-
sounds right.
Ended with a 12-year.
They've got an 8, a 10, and a 12.
Yeah.
That was, because I was new to OKI. I didn't hear about it until everybody was like, it's going away. Get a bottle.
Yeah, and
so-
the 12 is the last one, right?
Yeah, and the 12 was up there in price, but everyone
Yeah.
said it's definitely worth it. The 10-year was a little more achievable, and I found a bottle of it and picked it up.
See, but that's MGP, just like the Boone County 1833 12 years MGP.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an interesting side by side because the Boone County, $50.
Yeah.
You know, I only saw the OKI 12 one place, and the guy was asking over 100.
It's ridiculous.
So I was like, no, thank you. But you know,
I'll
both
pass.
MGPs could very well be different mash bills, could very well be aged different places and have a completely different profile.
Sure.
But you know, same distillery.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Who knows?
I wonder too if at some point, and it's entirely possible that it won't be, but I wonder if at some point sourced whiskeys will be a thing of the past.
Well, a lot of distilleries, like the big ones in Kentucky, are like, okay, we need all of our new make to be aging for ourselves.
Yeah.
So they've like, I think that's why a lot of distilleries started making their own stuff.
Yeah.
Because they were like,
Absolutely.
well, our provider is cutting us off. They're not making stuff for us anymore because they need their own bourbon.
Yeah.
You know, back when no one was really buying it, it's like, yeah, we'll sell you some of our barrels, no problem. You kidding me? I mean, that's how Jefferson started, because he had all these, you know, he's finding all these old barrels of stuff that no one wanted. That was just getting blended away into bottom shelf bourbons, like a 15-year-old barrel, 18-year-old barrels, just getting blended into like something you'd pay $15 for on the shelf. Getting blended in with 4-year. And that's why he started buying them and making, I think the first Jefferson's was a 15-year age-stated bourbon. You know, of course, that eventually went away.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, so I think sourcing...
The entirety of the video today is just going to be the ceiling.
Well, I can lower that down a little.
Okay, that'd be great, if you don't mind. So as we're finishing up our conversation, too, we're also setting up the... Oh, look at that. Look at that. It is much lower. We're setting up the video for the Patreon viewers as well. Anyway. Yeah, I don't think that it'll ever necessarily go away, but I think that it will become less prominent, per se.
Yeah, do I need to go up?
I don't know, dude. This is going great. Everything about this episode has been off the cuff and stellar.
They've been making a killing off of some of those weird barrels that they used to just mix in because they were you know, super high age, and they're like, well, we haven't done anything with it. What are we going to do now? And like, what was it? The Hoop and Holler, what's that brand?
Oh, the Orphan Barrel.
Orphan Barrel. Yeah, they've been selling those and making a killing off of it.
Yeah.
Because some of them are going for like $125, $150.
I haven't been impressed with any of those with the Orphan Barrel.
I'll say the only one that I've really not.
Time for someone's pills.
Oh, it's probably Dexter.
Yeah,
I bet it's Dexter.
it's Dexter.
The only one that I've liked marginally enough to go back to was the the old Barter House.
Yeah, I forgot one of those.
Barter, was it old Barter House or just Barter House?
It's Barter House.
Okay.
And
The 20-year?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just super butterscotch.
It is. It's like nothing but butterscotch, I would say.
I seem to remember liking the younger stuff. So the 15-year Forged Oak, yeah, was pretty good. The one I liked the most was actually the whiskey, the Gifted Horse.
Gifted Horse, yeah.
I thought it was
we
really
talked about that recently.
unique
I think.
tasting, you know. So
but
yeah, the Rhetoric. No, I never had Old Blowhard or Hoop and Holler, but from what I heard from Hoop and Holler, it was just like licking a barrel. It was just because that was 28 years. There's a reason why there's not.
And they just
any
did,
28 years.
Yeah, and they just did the Entrapment, which was 25.
Right.
It was Canadian whiskey. And I think they even came out and said it's just Crown Royal, 25-year-old Crown Royal. Like, it's...
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that about does it for our... Well, I'm going to back up from the mic a little bit there. Sorry. That about does it for our conversation on sourced MGP, NDP, bourbons, and/or whiskeys. It was a fun ride. And let's drink some more bourbon. Please. So, again, we have started recording our reviews for each episode on video as well. As you can tell, I have a great setup of my iPhone right now, but I'm going to be switching over to the actual DSLR here fairly soon. If you want to see these videos, you can head to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $2 a month, you can watch these videos and see our beautiful, shiny faces. So also, for anybody who does not know us, I mean, you know me, because I'm paired, but that's Chad over there, closest to the camera other than me, of It's Bourbon Night.
Hello.
And then there is Swan, the bourbon finder.
What's up, guys?
All the things that Chad can't do on It's Bourbon Night because he's trying to be the professional one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so our review for this episode, in line with, and it's not sourced anymore, the new Riff.
No, and they are very clear to say that on the box here, because it says right here, mashed and distilled on site in the biggest possible text they could put on the box.
It's almost as big as the new Riff logo.
Yeah.
Is.
Yeah.
Somebody please take this bottle so I don't drop it and I ruin Swan's bottle.
Yes.
So a little bit of background. This was New Riff's first distillate again. Mm-hmm. It was just released a couple of weeks ago.
August 1st.
Distillery only. Oh, so just...
Yeah, for the month of August,
Yes,
it will
2
be
weeks ago.
distillery only.
Yeah.
And after that, it goes Kentucky, Ohio,
Nationwide.
Indiana. Not really nationwide, though.
And they're already doing pics of it, too.
Whoa.
They're already doing pics of it, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You told us that today. A pick.
Wow.
Oh. First word that comes to mind.
Caramel.
Oh,
For me.
okay. Chad, nothing at all? Butterscotch?
Mm-mm.
Wow, you're not getting anything on the nose. That's crazy.
Nope.
I think it's super butterscotch heavy. Are you sure we have the same thing? Here, smell mine.
I'm getting a little bit of the butterscotch.
Whoa. Did you clean... Is this a clean glass?
Yeah.
Yeah, yours smells super butterscotchy.
Right?
Smell mine.
What did you pour for yourself? Did you get something from earlier?
No.
Snuck him some Widow
Hold on,
Jane.
let's
I don't know. I mean, you have a little bigger pour.
but not by much. Not enough to make that much of a difference.
No, I'm getting the butterscotch. Maybe not.
I mean, once I kind of agitate it.
Swan's is more on par with yours.
I don't know.
I thought. Wait, no, I definitely.
Well, you have video evidence now, right?
I definitely grabbed it from here, didn't I?
Okay.
I don't know.
Are you sure you didn't pour that one over there?
No, because this is the leftover.
Okay.
Jefferson's.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Well, let's just see if they taste
Let's
the
just
same.
find out, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I get a little bit, but it doesn't sound like it's as apparent as yours.
No.
Hey.
It's very butterscotch heavy on the.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting
palate.
it on the palate. Ooh, that burn kicks in kind of funny. I like it, though.
Yeah, it's right
It
up.
hits. Go ahead.
It's right up front. The proof.
Yeah,
It's like right up front
I do get a little bit of that greenness.
on the back end.
Yeah. Just a hair, but I think that it's still present. And it's just 4 years old, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say what I did about the Wilderness Trail. If this is your first attempt, you are killing it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it's definitely worth picking up once it makes its way out to you.
Yeah, $39.99.
That's not bad at all.
Not bad for a first offering from a new distillery.
No.
Yeah.
I want to go back for a second sip before I go ham on my. It's so much butterscotch.
And I'm getting now that I've tasted the finish, I'm tasting that more like green apple
Yeah.
peel
Mm-hmm.
on the palate too. But the first second or two of the palate is really the best part.
I would agree.
Then it's probably the finish after you've had two sips.
Mhm.
Because I think second sip you're getting
Yeah.
more of the proof on the tongue, and it's kind of overpowering that slight greenness.
Right.
Have you guys ever had those green caramel apples with the nuts on the outside of it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get with this.
I'm not getting any nut. Particularly.
It's not super heavy, but it's not with those either.
I could see some almond on it actually.
Yeah.
Maybe some weak almond.
Yeah. I mean, a very, very light almond flavor.
Yeah.
But I actually am. I quite like this for a, for a first distillate
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
product.
It's definitely good.
An FDP.
And it's bottled in bond too, which I don't think we mentioned, but that's
I don't
usually
think we did
our go-to, at least for me. It's like I'll pick up anything that's bottled in bond at least once to try it.
Yeah.
Also, how freaking sexy is this bottle, though?
Yeah, I like the bottle a lot more once I saw it in person.
My goodness. Yeah, Chad was talking about how he didn't like that it was that painted look towards the top, but I think that it's... Sorry.
I thought in the picture, it only went to the clear part of the bottle, like the bottom fourth of it. But it starts
halfway.
to go to it more around halfway, which is, I think, a lot better.
Between about halfway and 5/8.
There you go. Yeah. No, it's a nice bottle. It's a nice bottle shape.
And like we said, too, it's $40 MSRP.
That's a good price.
As we do on the show, we have a review system of nose, palate, finish, and price, or as Chad likes to say...
Never pull fleshy piercings.
That one. And we all vomit. Each category is out of 5, and then we total everything up for a total out of 20, and then we let you know whether or not this is worth your time. So, we forgot to get paper out for ourselves earlier, so everybody except for Perry is going to have to be on digital devices. Sorry about forgetting the paper, but is anybody ready to go first? Or in typical Chad fashion, would you like to lead off? Leading off in the bottom of the ninth. Chad with the ringtones today.
Yeah.
I mean...
I had snooze instead of off last time.
Sorry,
I can pick up more on the nose now that I've tasted it.
I've emptied mine, but I still get a lot on it now because I've always been one of those people that when I finish it and kind of let it sit there for a second.
I love doing that.
I get a ton on the glass.
Love doing that.
I'm getting a lot more of the apple now that it's done.
I'm getting more of like a black pepper on the nose now too.
I'm getting it on the finish, a black pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely present, and actually, kind of a bit of coffee too on the nose, as well.
Mm.
This is one of the most unique bourbons I think I've ever had. It totally doesn't taste like anything else I've ever tried before.
No. It's definitely different.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to try some of their picks to see if it's, way different than this or not.
Yeah. All right. Who's got an idea here?
I'll go.
Okay.
Nose. I gave it a 3.
Okay.
Thought it was solid, but maybe a little one note.
Interesting.
I wasn't picking up like this and this and this. I was just kind of picking up like, apple.
Mm-hmm.
And caramel on yours. So there wasn't a whole lot to write home about in the nose, but I still thought it was good, so I gave it a 3.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I just realized we've been doing each of ours all the way through recently.
Oh,
and
really?
It threw me off when you didn't go on to palate, but...
Hey, you looked right at me. I'm not Chad.
I think it's better when we all do the same topic.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I can go ahead with mine.
Sure.
Mine's also a 3. I got... And I don't know if it's necessarily fair to grade it like this, but as soon as I got done with it and it kind of smelled the glass, it was great. I thought it was really good. It's just missing a little bit. I want it to be a little stronger because there's definitely some that I've had where it's like all the notes kind of hit you all at once and you have to go back a couple times to pick them apart. Like Chad said, it's a little one note, but it's a good note.
Well, for me, it actually, as we established, it was stronger on the nose for me. And I didn't like it that much more than you guys. I actually gave it a 3.5. And it did take a little bit too to actually get into it and realize, I'm finding all these little things. But once I did, I really did start to enjoy it. Yep. Is it my favorite nose? No. Am I going to keep asking myself questions and then answering them? I hope not. Podcast over. I think it's fine. I don't think it's the best thing I've ever smelled, but I think that it's serviceable.
Yeah.
It's enticing at the very least.
For sure.
But palate-wise, though.
Palate, I'm going to tell you what, I gave it a 3. I really liked the palate. I would have given it higher if not for the fact that it was a short palate. I thought the palate was pretty darn short. And what I was liking about it was, I think, this explosion of proof. I think is that 100 proof really kind of came up and became evident real quickly, which I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But when I stood back and thought about it, I wasn't thinking of the palate about a certain flavor. Like, oh, I'm tasting this and this and this and this and this. Again, like the nose, it was a little one note. So that's why I just gave it a 3.
Swan.
I gave it a 3.5. I thought it was kind of the same thing. It's one note, but like I said, it's a really good note. For me, kind of getting the butterscotch you found, the caramel, some of the apple. Didn't really know what to call it, but you're right. It is kind of a black pepper on the end there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great. It all came together for one note really well, which sometimes is not always the case with some of them. It's it's one note, but you're like, I don't know if this really blends too well.
Sure.
For me, it did. I like this one, so I gave it a 3.5. Now that being said, it is their first run.
Mm-hmm.
You know this is going to get better.
Yeah.
It's going to get aged more.
Oh,
I hope
absolutely.
so,
Yeah. So I've
No, we're just sold out of our 4-year-old stock all the time.
Yeah, it's going to get some improvements. I left some room for it to improve in your rating as well, because I think it'll get there.
Yeah, and I gave it a 3.5 as well. I enjoyed what I had, but again, I do think it is a little short. It's funny because I can almost feel it hit the middle back of my tongue and then just stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on a very physical level, it doesn't feel like it has a creamy or viscous mouthfeel to it, and it just is very abruptly over. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and give my finish score 2. I gave the finish a 2.5. I didn't think the finish was very enjoyable. Not that it's bad, but it just doesn't seem to carry over a whole lot of the things that I enjoyed on the palate. And again, I do think that the finish was just a hair short. It has the slightest hint of a Kentucky hug.
Yeah.
A very, very slight hint of it.
Very slight, yeah. I thought, like I said before, the palate went too quickly into the finish, and that's why I was kind of lower on the palate. Same reason why I was lower on the finish, but also picking up a little bit of that green that we were talking about. So I gave it a 2.3. I thought
I love when this happens.
Well, I didn't want to give it a 2, but I thought it was more than just half of a point away from the nose and the palate.
Sure.
So I gave it a 2.3. Yeah.
I really liked
Swan
it.
gave it a 2.28.
2.28. Repeating. I gave it a 3. I honestly kind of liked it. The finish wasn't super, super long. It's not always something I look for, to have a super long finish, but for me, it was great because it went, like you said, it was everything hit and then it was done. But the little bit that was there after was some nice kind of spice heat instead of just alcohol heat, and
Sure.
I really like that. That's something I look for. So it was for me. I gave it a 3.
And one more time, too, the price was $40, almost even. So what would you guys rank the price then?
Price, I appreciated that a brand new distillery who's waited 4 years to put out the first bourbon didn't put it out for $79.95 or something crazy, and they could have,
Sure,
because it's a bottled and bond bourbon, which is the most
paid
heavily regulated, verticals of bourbon there is,
right.
and it's a new distillery, so yeah, I could have totally seen it, but they didn't. They did it for half that. They did it for $40.
Yeah,
but. And I've said this before on the show, I can't take things like that into consideration.
Of course.
I just have to take what it tasted like, the $40. But I still gave it a 3.
Okay.
I think it was worth that $40 for the most part. And if to get a 5, it would have been like $15.
Sure.
But that wouldn't be reasonable. But so I gave it a 3.
So you gave this an 11.3 out of 20.
Yeah.
The last time you were on, you had King of Kentucky, which you gave a 7 out of 20 on. Would you maintain that and say that you recommend New Riff Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey Bottled in Bond over
King of Kentucky? Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to verify with you.
No, I don't even need a moment to think about that.
Swan, what's... I'm sorry. I just thought I'd cap that off by reminding you of your pain.
That goes back to the Widow Jane, where it's like, I really need to like this. It was so expensive.
Right. Well, Chad gave that gave that price a 0.5.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Anyway.
I gave it a 4. I just think it's a solid price. I mean, like I said before, they could have charged $80 like Chad said, but I would have paid it. Because I think that, in the theme of like a lot of these being more craft distillers, they charge way up there. I paid more for the OKI, but given the age, it wasn't substantial. They just, overall, that whole distillery has a decent price point on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that this is probably going to go from 4.5 years to closer to, 6 maybe, over their lifetime.
They'll stop, yeah.
And hopefully they'll maintain close to the same price. I think it's fair to give it a 4.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do the same thing I just did to Chad. Last time you were on, you had Wilderness Trail Bottled in Bond. And you gave that a 14.5 out of 20. You gave this a 13.5 out of 20.
Very close.
Would you recommend the Wilderness Trail over the New Riff?
Yep, I would. Just because I like the palate, I think, a little bit more on that. What did I give the palate on that one?
With the Wilderness Trail?
Mm-hmm.
You gave the palate a 4, so you liked it 0.5 more than you did
better. There you go. Substantial.
Well, I can't say too much because I also gave the Wilderness Trail on the palate a 4 and gave the palate on the New Riff a 3.5.
This one feels like it hits a wall. Like I said, it's not bad.
That's what I was saying. Is it doesn't deliver all the way through.
What I'm really looking forward to is the 6-year version of that. I think 2 extra years would do miles for that.
Because it is kind of missing an oaky quality to it.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
This might be tough. Would you rather have Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond at $14 or New Riff?
I would rather have Heaven Hill.
Heaven Hill, yeah.
Personally.
That destroys my price.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
I
was also thinking, okay, Henry McKenna's $30.
Balls. Dang it, dude.
That's why I think I was generous with my 3.
Yeah.
I do. I'm going to keep it at a 3.
I'm keeping mine at a 4, too.
But I do think there's a little bit of rose color going on here.
Sure.
Yeah, and part of it is, too, I think I'm just personally willing to pay a little bit more for some of the craft distillers just because it's new, it's different, and you feel like they're going to have a flavor profile you haven't necessarily hit before. Mm-hmm. So I'm willing to pay that. But when you look at returning, say I went to go buy a second bottle of this, I would probably pick up easily 2, maybe 3 of the Heaven Hill before I bought another one of these.
Well, I paid $10 more for the Wilderness Trail than I would have with the New Riff than you did with the New Riff.
Yeah.
But you liked it more, so that's good.
But I liked it more.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, I gave it the same price. Oh wait, no, excuse me. I gave it the same overall score. I did.
Oh, okay.
I was about to say no, I messed up, but I need to start highlighting.
Excel sheet.
Well, I have an Excel. Okay. That's what I'm looking off of. Anyway, I gave my price a 4 and then an overall of 13.5 out of 20. I would say it's definitely worth a try. I think it's again a beautiful bottle to have on your shelf. It's fun to have other people try it. I think I look forward to the uncorking from its bourbon.
yeah.
Because I'm sure that's coming soon. But anyway, yeah, that unless you guys have final thoughts, you sound like you were just sighing. Like, oh, well, hold on, I have one more thing to say.
Nope.
Okay, good deal.
Just excited about more age on it. I think it'll be great.
Agreed. One more time, too, if you want to see the video of this review, you can head to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast and become a patron for $2 a month. And then you will see these beautiful, happy, shining faces. Hey. Okay, so our next segment on the show is the one that Chad can never remember.
Tips and bits. Oh, you could not be more wrong this time, Barry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you prepared?
I've had a tip and or bit almost since the last podcast I was on.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know that after 4 hours, you're supposed to see a doctor about that, right?
I know, yeah. But I'm not.
It'll go away.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your tips and bits?
For tips and bits, I like to recommend a podcast that I've listened to. It's actually a limited series podcast, but it's called Drawn, the story of animation.
Oh, nice.
And it's like an
Sounds
11
awesome.
part. Well, they did a bonus episode, so I don't know if that bonus episode was 11 or if it was number 12. I think it might have been number 12. I'm not sure. But it's more like listening to NPR, where they actually do the produced piece.
Oh, okay.
With music and sound effects, and they interview people. And it's more like a put together, produced type of thing instead of just like a conversation, like a lot of the podcasts that I listen to. And it's really informative, and each episode has a theme behind it, and you get to hear greats like Billy West, who does Fry, and Professor Farnsworth,
right,
and Bugs Bunny in Space Jam. That was him.
Really?
Because
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, because the original Bugs had passed away by that point.
Mel Blanc's been dead for a long time.
And so many voices, but lots of great names.
Sure.
Are interviewed for that.
That's
podcast.
really cool.
So I would recommend that.
And what was it called again?
Drawn.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
Yeah,
that sounds
it's
awesome.
I blew through it in the car ride to and from work. Yeah.
Nice.
I just watched a TV show called Newsroom. The Newsroom.
Oh yeah.
Oh, with Jeff Daniels.
Yep. Fantastic. I mean, I blew through it, and they're full-length hour episodes, and probably finished it in about a week and a half. That one was fantastic. And then also I'm listening to another podcast, Off Topic, from Rooster Teeth Productions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's very video game and movie heavy, which is for me personally, and it's just a mess to listen to. So you kind of have to watch, but they do some crazy stuff on there. Like today, they were in the middle of a podcast, and they decided halfway through, we're going to stop this podcast, continue rolling, but we're going to make the world's longest straw, and I'm going to try to get the beer from over there to over here with this taped together mess of a straw. And I'm at work listening to this for like 2 hours, and they have a beer pitcher, probably like just massive, probably the size of my forearm, just trying to get it from one end to the other. And they ended up making
And he has a really long
straws.
forearm.
He's got a
let me
big
tell you.
forearm, folks. It's like Popeye over here.
Yeah, eating my spinach, guys. But it's fun to listen to, and then if you watch it, it's just crazy, and it's interesting. I'd give it a watch.
Yeah.
/ listen.
So I've been meaning to mention this on the show for like 2 or 3 weeks now, but I was actually on another podcast recently. I guested on a show called Alphabet Flight, and you're going to love this. This guy goes through his name's Jesse Cooper. He goes through the official handbook of the Marvel Universe and talks about each character in it, but he uses like the original copy of it from the 80s. And it was a lot of fun. I also was drinking bourbon throughout it, so by the end of it, I was like, yeah.
And why is it called Alphabet Flight?
Like Alpha Flight, the Canadian superhero team,
okay.
and
But it's called
Marvel.
Alphabet
Flight.
Okay.
Yeah. I was featured during Night Week, where we talked about Nightcrawler, Nightshade, and Nightmare. Right? Yeah, that's right. And the Nightcrawler episode's a lot of fun because we just gush for an hour about how much we love
the 90s X-Men show. Oh, okay.
No,
I mean, he was on there.
Well, he was, but we're strictly talking about the comic version of it. So anyway, go check that out. It was a lot of fun. But then also another podcast. I don't typically talk about other bourbon podcasts, but there's a really good new bourbon podcast and just whiskey podcast out called Chill Filtered. It's two guys just kind of like we do, just sit around and talk about whiskey, and
cool.
It's a lot of fun. I found myself going, wow, I really can't wait to listen to the next episode of it. They're about a dozen deep so far, I think, but it's a lot of fun to listen to and makes you want to go out and buy new stuff and try new things and everything.
Sweet.
So anyway, that's Tips and Bits for this week.
Awesome.
What's the next segment? Social media?
Yeah, I got one last thing.
I just was like, what happens next?
Fred Minnick just put out a new magazine, right? Like
Bourbon Plus.
Yeah. Has anybody looked at that yet?
I don't think it's... Is it out yet? I thought it was
I don't
launching
know.
around Bourbon and Beyond.
Yeah, it's coming out in October, I think. September, October.
Okay. I need to get my hand on that because I've started reading through some of his stuff. And another thing you should definitely do.
He's a good dude.
It's great.
Love him to death. I mean, he was on the show a few weeks ago, and if you've not heard that episode yet, I highly encourage you to do so. Fred and I talked about stuff that he's never talked about in other interviews before, and I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it got weirdly heavy at one point. But it was a good time hanging out with him. But anyway, okay, so guys, first off, thank you all so much for being on the show, even though it was all over the place and all that good stuff. But anyway, where can people find you on social media?
Swan.
I'm at the Bourbon Finder, and then I also just started a new one, which is going to be dedicated to craft bourbon and whiskey. It's crafting bourbon on Instagram only so far, but we're probably going to expand a little bit. And honestly, I don't use my personal one that much. It's pretty much just the bourbon ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never given out my personal one just because I hardly ever post on it, and I'm only just posting on Bourbon Night. But the best place to find us is youtube.com/It's Bourbon Night, @It's Bourbon Night on Instagram, Twitter, and we're also on the Facebooks, and we're on the Patreons, patreon.com/It's Bourbon Night, and Amazon, amazon.com/shop/It's Bourbon Night. It's all them places, but start with YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys have new episodes that come out every Friday.
Every Friday and we go live on Sundays.
And those Friday episodes are usually brought to you courtesy of Monster Energy.
Well, this last one was
Chad's
for sure.
Late Night.
Yeah.
Well, if you would like to find me personally, I am at PRitter1492 on just about every social media platform. If you'd like to follow the show, we are at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find the apparel shop at threadless.com/mybourbonshop. We have a lot of good stuff up there. If you head to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast, as we've talked about before, you can become a patron of the show. We're about halfway to being fully funded just by listeners. So if you would love to go and do that, you can head to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast again for as little as $1 a month. 5-star rate and review on iTunes, please. We've had some wonderful reviews popping up there from time to time. Thank you so much for listening to the show. As always, next week I have my dad on for episode 41. I've already recorded that episode. Actually, it was a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for that. Chad and Swan, thank you guys for being here for episode 40.
Of course.
Of the show.
Absolutely.
Can't believe we've made it this far. We're getting close to the year.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe that it's creeping up on us. But anyway, I will see you next week. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.